So I was thinking more about the Vox, Steven Crowder YouTube controversy. And it got me thinking about using power in the internet age. Namely, how to wield it. Because the more I dug into the Steven Crowder, Carlos Maza controversy, the more it got me thinking about power. So let's talk about power and how to get it in the internet age. The first thing you do, if your target is bigger than you, or you cannot directly go after it in any meaningful way. Carlos is an employee for Vox, which is perhaps a smaller YouTube channel than Steven Crowder, who has a large YouTube following. So Carlos on his own can't just directly engage Steven Crowder. But I want to add, when I look back through Carlos's Twitter account, only a year ago, he was making fun of it, making fun of Steven Crowder, and seemed to not be as fazed by Steven Crowder as he suddenly was recently, which we'll get back into later. So if you can't go after Steven Crowder, if you can't go after your opponent directly, you think about leverage. So you use a term called power mapping, which is understanding the other players in the game that you can leverage to go after your main opponent. And in this case, the power mapping is YouTube. While Carlos can't go directly head-to-head with Steven Crowder, he can go after YouTube as part of the media class. If you want a great example of power mapping, think about the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter movement went after Democrats and largely ignored Republicans. Why is that? It's because they knew they could primary Democrats, primary is just a political term, to get more far-left Democrats into office and accomplish their ends. Power mapping. Second step you want to do is shift your ally spectrum, meaning you encapsulate yourself and your narrative or your goals against a larger backdrop. In this case, Carlos Maza is gay, so he uses the LGBTQ ally spectrum. I'm not saying this is wrong, I'm saying this is just how you increase your power. 3, you then create a decision dilemma for your target. So YouTube is the target, you've shifted your ally spectrum from just you to the LGBT community, and then you want to create a decision dilemma where you force your target to respond, but when they respond, they do not have any good options. So you wait till June 1st, June being Pride Month, knowing that corporations are going to try to capitalize on LGBTQ stuff, for lack of better words, and to show pride and engage in the community. And then you use that month, Pride Month, to vocalize your complaint so you can create a decision dilemma for YouTube. Carlos Maza is creating a narrative saying if YouTube does not do something about Steven Crowder, they are not actually in favor of LGBTQ pride. They're actually against it. They're promoting and protecting homophobic attacks, bigotry ideas. Indeed, by not doing anything, by YouTube taking a down-the-middle line, they're indeed allowing hateful and toxic content, specifically on Pride Month. And this just forces YouTube's hand a little bit, because YouTube then doesn't want to make it look like they're allowing, bigotry or hateful content to exist, while at the same time promoting, Pride Month on their platform. Creating a decision dilemma, meaning whatever YouTube does, it won't be enough, because Carlos can then just accuse YouTube of homophobia during Pride Month, something they've already prepped for. And this is exactly what happens. When YouTube takes a middle line, Carlos tweets back, OMFG, oh my effing god, saying this is unacceptable, forcing YouTube to take a more strong line. Using decision dilemmas are very effective at slowly pushing your goal further down the field. Because each time you can paint it as a backdrop of, no, you're not responding well enough, you're not responding well enough. And this is exactly what occurred. And so you've got a flurry of activity by YouTube, keep having to issue more and more statements because the decision dilemma was forced upon them until they could appease what seemed to be a hypocritical stance that they had had. But in reality, it was an artificial one. It was one that was chosen perhaps on coincidence, but I just do not believe that Carlos Maza, who a year ago was relatively joking about these things, a year later on June 1st decides to do this? No, it was so he could shift the ally spectrum, creating a larger cause for his complaint, and then force a decision dilemma upon YouTube. And this is a well-used tactic in media. Sleeping Giants does this. If you want to go after Fox News or MSNBC, you go after their advertisers. Power map, what's the real thing? If I can't go after Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow, I'll go after their advertisers. And then I'll leverage their advertisers. And the way I'll leverage the advertisers is to send them emails with decision dilemmas, saying, by paying ads in front of Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow, does that mean you approve of his white supremacy or her, I don't know, whatever the heck people have problems with Rachel Maddow are. I watch neither of them, to be honest. But that's how you do it, right? All this happens because YouTube perceives Carlos and Vox to have the real power, when in reality, they don't until YouTube capitulates. In reality, YouTube is much more powerful and stronger than maybe they recognize. If YouTube had simply responded, Carlos does not decide the content on our platform, and that was it, they just left it at one statement, it probably would have died out as a controversy. There would have been no oxygen left. And you might argue, well, what about YouTube's power mapping? If Carlos or Vox didn't get the answer that they wanted from YouTube, if YouTube had just given a blanket statement like that, couldn't they have gone after the advertisers on YouTube? Certainly. But in this case, YouTube has a relative monopoly. So even if Coca-Cola and Visa and Chevrolet decided to pull their ads, YouTube, the second largest search engine, basically the largest advertiser in the world, could simply turn to Visa, Coca-Cola, and Chevrolet and say, if you pull your ads, we ban you from ever advertising on Google again. And if they said that, Visa and Coca-Cola probably are unlikely to pull their ads. That's just too big of a space to suddenly disappear from and never have the opportunity to reach that market again. On top of that, Coca-Cola, for instance, would realize if we pull our ads on YouTube and Google, and YouTube turns to us and says, if you pull your ads, we will ban you from ever being able to advertise Coca-Cola across anything on Google again, the risk from just allowing Pepsi to control that entire marketplace would be too big of a fear for Coca-Cola to pull their ads. YouTube actually has a power of strength, but the problem is the perception that was created by Carlos Maza and Vox allowed YouTube to capitulate, and in turn, you saw what happened. I don't know. It's interesting examining power dynamics. As always, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe if you want. See you tomorrow. Bye.